Hi everybody, I'm back. It's Monday. I am Coach Rebecca Smith and I am here for your weekly Q&A with Coach Rebecca. And if we're just meeting, I am a sports psychology expert. I specialize in helping individual sport athletes like gymnasts, swimmers, divers, dancers, pole vaulters overcome mental blocks and get back in action. I also help build confidence and help athletes tap into their personal flow. I do this through two different ways. One is my online mental toughness training center, the Perform Happy Community. You are welcome to join us. We're actually taking new members right now. And then the other is through one-on-one coaching over Skype or FaceTime. So if you're interested, you can always reach out. And this week we are focusing on parenting. Parenting. Being a parent myself, I'm 2 years in. Man, you cannot read enough blog posts to figure this thing out. But I'm going to do my best to give you my perspective on what athletes need and want from you and give you some ideas on what not to do. So first, I'm going to answer questions, and the priority always goes to the Perform Happy community members. So I'm going to answer a question from the community. If we have time, I'm going to answer a couple other ones I got too. So let's dive in. Here's our first question. My daughter's gym has taken conditioning up several levels in the last few weeks. It's brutal to watch. My daughter cries before gym starts, during gym, and sometimes even on the way home. She complains to me that her chest hurts and it's hard to breathe, sometimes during the conditioning. Her anxiety has increased, her exhaustion level has increased as well. Every gym day, her demeanor starts to change when she knows it's getting close to gym time. Her stomach starts to hurt, and today she said, "Why do we have to condition so hard?" We've explained that it always happens in the off season to get ready for the next season, and that she survived last year, she'll survive this year too. But honestly, I hate to see her so stressed out, and it's taking a toll on her. How, as parents, are we supposed to help get them through the physically and mentally tough times? Nothing I'm saying is helping her through it. Oh my gosh, yeah, just reading this, I'm like, oh, you poor thing. And at the same time, I'm like having, PTSD flashbacks to being 10 and in tears, conditioning, and man, the things that we are asked to do, and at the same time, the things that we're able to push through are pretty incredible as gymnasts. So here are my thoughts on that. The first is check with her doctor. Make sure she doesn't have exercise-induced asthma. That's always number one, is you want to make sure that if there is anything like that, like chest pains or difficulty breathing, that you just check in. I had exercise-induced asthma, and that made all that stuff a lot harder for me. So when we figured that out, it was very helpful. I've talked to a lot of swimmers too, who they get these really hard sets going, and then they go to the doctor and they get an inhaler, and it makes everything a little easier. So first thing, check with your child's doctor and see if that's an issue. And if that's not, then we can move on. So something that you might want to explain to her is the theory of homeostasis. This is the body's tendency to want to stay the same. So anytime your body changes, your brain goes, no, don't do it, don't change. So your body's, wanting to stay the same, so it has, the same blood pressure, the same body temperature, the same functions going well. Your body wants to stay the same because the way it is right now is working, it's alive. So it wants to go, okay, let's stay alive, don't change anything, because right now we're alive and it's working out. So if you start doing a really heavy conditioning set, your heart starts to pound, everything goes up, and then your brain goes, uh-oh, change detected, and your body doesn't want to change. So there's this moment where you're actually building muscle or building cardio, when your brain is sending messages to your body to say, like, stop, abort mission, don't do it. And so that's what she's hearing her brain say, is like, just don't do it, get out of there, don't go. And she walks in the gym and her brain's like, uh-oh, it's gonna happen again. I'm gonna have to get stronger if I walk in there. I'm gonna have to get more flexible, and that's gonna be uncomfortable. So it's the worst. I can't, I empathize for you, girl. It's, conditioning is not the fun part, but here's what you can do, mom. You can help her figure out the silver lining. What is it? Why would your coach have you do that? And really great coaches actually explain to the kids, all right, kids, it's June, we are diving in, we are doing serious conditioning for the next 2 months, and then we're going to do routines, and then they'll kind of plan it out. So if your coach hasn't explained that and she's like, I feel like this will never end and I have no idea how hard it's going to be, it's worth having a conversation. Just say, hey coach, can we talk about big picture here and decide, just so that the kid knows this is the plan, this is how long it's going to be, this is the intensity, this is why. And not every coach obviously has time for that, but that can really help to know, think about humans. If I'm like doing something uncomfortable and I think it will never end, I don't want to keep doing that. I want to find a way out. So see if you can talk to the coach and figure out, is there a light at the end of the tunnel? What is that? Okay, you just got to get to June and then you switch to routines or something. Also, what is that conditioning doing for her? I'm sure she can probably figure out some benefits, like, well, actually, I'm already getting better at this, or I made my kip for the first time because my arms are getting stronger. I mean, obviously, it'll probably be a month before she starts to see some results, but you can help her track it. You can help her figure out, like I did 20 today when yesterday or, last week I only did 10. I've also helped a girl who she really hated conditioning. She passionately hated it. And I was like, girlfriend, you gotta learn to love it because it's part of the deal. And her coach would have her, every time she fell twice in a row on a skill, she'd have to go do 10 leg lifts. And she was terrified to try anything on beam because she thought she was going to have to go do leg lifts. So she'd kind of just like waste her time and walk around and never get anything done, and then wouldn't do the skill because she was stressed. And so I was like, all right, every time you go to do leg lifts, you're going to do 10 things you're grateful for. I think I've talked about that on here before. Or you're going to do 10 things you love. So it's like, leg lift 1, I'm grateful for my cat. I'm grateful that I'm strong. I'm grateful that my mom drove me here, and you use it as a time to pump yourself up. Okay, in the next 5 minutes, I am going to sing my favorite song in my head twice. Ready, go. And you're like, doing your cardio. So you can help her figure out ways to have more fun with it because it's a necessary evil. It's going to be there. She's not going to get out of it if she wants to keep doing gymnastics. So figure out, how can she get in her happy place? Keeping track of like the personal wins, the gratitude list. And then kind of talking to the coaches and seeing if she can get an idea of the overall plan so that she doesn't get overwhelmed by the idea of it. And like I said in the beginning, check with her doctor. If she's got asthma, if there's something that's like actually physically getting in her way, that'll be really good to know. So moving on here, I got a question from a soccer mom. Tryouts are in 2 weeks and my kid probably isn't going to make the team. We honestly don't want to deal with the cost and commitment, but if she doesn't make it, she'll be crushed. How do we deal with this? Oh, that's a tough one too, because you've got, you really want to support your kid, but or you don't know, but you don't think they're going to make it. They're going to be upset. Like, why send them in? Why even send them into battle if they're going to lose? Well, because there are a lot of life lessons available. And that's the hard part of sport parenting. It's easy to be a sport parent when your kid comes home like jingling with medals and a big smile on their face. But if they're crying or upset or stressed or they like, I hate myself kind of stuff, which I hear way too often, then it's like, why are we doing this? So here's my suggestion for our soccer mom and anyone in a similar position. And really kind of parents in general. Here are some do's and don'ts. So number 1 piece of advice that I give people is be neutral. And this is so hard for parents. This is so hard because this mom's like, I don't want her to be on that team. Like, I'm going to encourage her to not. Like, hey, do you really want to try out? I don't know. But try to be neutral. Like, okay, honey, what do you want? Great. You want to try out? Okay. And then you can help her talk through, what if it doesn't go well? Okay, what if it does? So if it does, then that means you're going to be traveling. That means that school's going to be impacted. You can kind of just like be like, all right, cool. Whatever happens, we love you. We support you. Leah's saying we learned so many life lessons this year. Oh, I know. I went to this meditation retreat years ago and just suffered. Sometimes you sit down to meditate and you're like, zen, peaceful, wonderful. And sometimes you sit down to meditate and it's like everything uncomfortable in your whole life comes flying up, and they call that a dukkha retreat. It's just suffering. It's just like solid suffering. And I was like, what the heck? Like, why have I done this to myself? It was a week in silence, which I know. I was like, okay, hello. What did I think it was going to be fun? But that week, that gnarly week of just like feeling and failing and like, was one of the most life-changing weeks, you know? And those years I look back in my life where it was like lesson after failure after hitting my face, like over and over and over. I look back and I'm like, yeah, that was necessary. And I can honestly, as an adult, you know, look back and go, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for those life lesson years, but God, I don't want to be in one anytime soon. So I feel for you. But okay, back to do's, what parents should do for their kids. Be neutral, best you can, you know, go into any situation with them going like, okay, anyways, fine. You know, you want to quit? Great. You want to do this forever? Awesome. Let's talk it out. That's the best thing you can do for them. I know it's not the easiest. Praise effort. You know, if your kid falls flat on their face, but they worked their butt off, you know, if your daughter goes into soccer tryouts and she works and she tries and she puts her heart on the line and she doesn't make it, then it's not like you go, oh gosh, well, what did we do that for? You go, you tried. I am so proud of you. You're such a great athlete for showing up and working your butt off, obviously. For gymnasts, so same thing, you know, if they show up in the gym and they're working and they're not getting necessarily, you know, like medal success or score success or move up success, but you can see that they're working, that's the thing to praise. That's the thing that you notice. As a parent, that's your job, is to notice that they're trying hard, because that is what's going to, you know, build them into a good adult, you know, a strong adult, not the fact that they're like talented. Because talent, you know, if you say, oh, you're talented, then they're not going to think that their hard work got them where they are. Because one of the kids that's gone the very farthest out of kids I've coached and helped with the sports psych stuff too, was a kid who could not walk a straight line when she was a kid. Zero talent. God bless her. And she worked harder than anybody else I ever coached, and that kid is flying. She's getting ready to compete in college as a gymnast. So injured and cannot compete. So, I mean, it's same thing. It's figuring out like where can you put in the effort? Where can she show up and feel like she's done a good job? She can go and she can condition. She can go and she can cheer on her teammates. You know, what effort can she put in? Even though she's injured and she can't put in a lot of other stuff, there's always something you can do. And as a parent, your job is to praise the effort, not the outcome. Another do, be the soft place to land. Your kids are out in this tough world where things are not easy, and your job isn't to make it harder. Like, oh, come on, pull it together, pull yourself up, let's go. That's kind of the coach's job. You pay good money for coaches to push your kids out of their comfort zone, to make them uncomfortable, to make them work hard, to really show them what they're made of within reason. And we hope that we all hope we've chosen good coaches for our kids. But the parent's job is to be the soft place to land at the end of the day when it was a really hard workout and they don't feel it going. You give them a hug, you tell them they worked hard, they did a good job, and you feed them. I did actually a survey of a whole bunch of teenage athletes kind of over time, and it was overwhelmingly the kids said what they wanted from their parents. So I asked them all, I had them, you know, put a note card in an envelope. What do you want from your parents and what do you not want from your parents? Do you guys have any guesses of the number one thing that these kids wanted from their parents? It was not coaching. It was not yelling. It was not tough love. It was food. They all want food. That's it. Like, what do you want from your parents? Food. So after the meet, you take them to lunch, you hug them, you say they did a good job because they tried hard, and you feed them and you take them home and you let them watch TV. Like, that's like the big thing today. So let's see, what do we got here? What does your athlete do when they don't feel encouraged? And as a parent, what do you do? Leah likes that answer. Yeah, food. So you, Liana, feed her. No, anyway, what does your athlete do when they don't feel encouraged? And as a parent, what do you do? So this one might go back to the last couple weeks I've talked about bummers and coaches not being so nice and not being so encouraging. And I talked about the screen. You put up a screen, you only let the good stuff in, the constructive stuff that will help you become a better athlete, and you bounce out the stuff that doesn't help. So that's one thing. As far as being encouraged, a lot of it comes from within, and whatever you focus on grows. So if you're focusing on how things are not going well and it's this isn't working and I don't like this and this person's rude, then you're going to have that grow and grow and grow and grow. But if you're focusing on gratitude, things that you're grateful for, things that are going well, little successes, then that starts to grow. Back to my do's and don'ts. Give them ownership. Let this be their choice. Half the time, I'm asking kids, do you choose to show up? Okay, just checking, you choose this, right? All right, then let's figure out how to make the best of that choice, even though you don't feel good right now or it doesn't feel fun. Let them fail. This is, my favorite example of this was with a swimmer's mom who she would always check his bag and put his goggles in and make sure everything was all set. Because one time he forgot his goggles. And I was like, let him forget his goggles. That's what that kid needs. He's going to go to college someday and he's going to need to forget his goggles. He's going to need that experience of, okay, I have to write a list. I have to figure out how to remember my goggles. I have to figure out how to take care of myself. Because he even said to me in confidence, he was like, I have total learned helplessness. This kid even knew the term, learned helplessness. My mom's going to do it, so why would I do that? Why would I spend the time to make myself lunch if my mom's going to do it? Why would I check my bag if my mom's going to check it? And so then this woman's at a parent session and I'm like, let the kid fail. And she was the one going, oh, I could never. But really that's, honestly, my dad said no to me once, probably more than once, but there was this one specific no I remember that got me in action. It was the no I needed. Sometimes we need a no. Sometimes we need I'm not going to help you with this, with love and food, So communicate, talk to them. If you want to know how they're doing, talk to them. If they don't want to talk back, then don't talk, but at least give them a chance. And then be compassionate. My favorite line to use, especially when I'm really irked, is that's got to be so hard for you. Even if you're like, kid, you did this to yourself. I don't know what to tell you. To say, that's got to be so hard for you. And just kind of bite your tongue, take a breath, give them a hug, feed them. It's okay. That's all we need half the time. And usually if you say that instead of, well, this is what you need to do. And how can you come on, figure it out. You did this to yourself. If you just say that's got to be so hard for you, they'll be like, well, but it's okay. Here's what I'm going to do to fix it. You'll be shocked. Try it out. And then now on to the don'ts. Don't allow your self-worth to get tied up in your kid's success or failure. This is hard because you don't want to watch your kid out there failing and feel like people are looking at you like, what didn't you give your kid? Which is all in your head if you're thinking that. I'm fast forwarding to my 2-year-old being a gymnast and I'm like, oh boy, remember the lessons. Don't coach your child. The main reason here is because that's probably the best way to confuse them. Because if they love and respect their coach, even if they just respect them, they're going to be hearing certain things from their coach. And then even if you were an athlete and you actually know what you're talking about, if you tell them something that conflicts with what their coach is saying, now they're like, who am I going to let down? The coach or my parents? When I'm competing, they're both watching me. Who do I choose? Who do I let down? So when I'm working with a kid one-on-one and they're asking me technique stuff, I'm like, whoop. I might know the answer to that, but I'm not going to talk about it because your coach needs to be right. Even if it's not totally right or whatever, it's better for the kid to be solid on this is how I do this skill versus going do I twist late? Do I twist early? I'm going to let somebody down. So just don't do it. Don't give them any suggestions. And that's very hard, especially if you're like, kid, this is obvious. Just don't do it because you might be creating confusion. Don't compare them to other kids. Now, this might happen even in the best of intentions that you might be like, oh my gosh, Claire had a great meet today. And then your kid's like, my heart is broken because my mom just noticed that my friend did better than me. And I already knew that, but I didn't want my mom to notice. Just don't talk about their friends. If they did good, bad, nothing, because then they're going to feel immediately like you're comparing them. And that is, it's the worst. Don't solve their problems. Talk about that. Don't push. If they're pushing against you and you push against them, it's only going to make the push harder. Loretta says, prefer to leave the coaching to the coaches. Yes. Emotional support and encouragement by saying you can do it. Keep trying. Don't give up. Yes. A+, Loretta. Good stuff. So pushing, this is especially with teenagers. If you give them something to push against, they're going to push. And if you don't, they're going to be kind of confused. Like, well, what do I do now? That's where the whole neutrality thing comes in. Like, if you're like, you don't want to go to tryouts. You don't want to, whatever. They're going to be like, I have to go to tryouts. I really want to go to tryouts. So from my experience, if you give them something to push against, they will push. So do the best you can to kind of like neutral out. Don't be a distraction. Don't go behind them, if they're a swimmer, or like, okay, don't forget this, don't forget that. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna be over here taking a picture. Like, don't be a distraction. Don't be like, woohoo, kid, I'm over here, right before they get up on beam. Unless they want that from you. If they specifically say, Mom, when you yell my name and I'm running down the vault runway, that makes me run so fast, then do it. If they don't say that, don't do it. Don't do it. They don't want you to do it. They don't want you to do it. I mean, maybe little ones, they like really want to see where their mom or dad is in the stands, but for the most part, don't be a distraction. And because you are, like, they want your attention. How do I encourage my daughter to calm her nerves before a meet? Lucinda, that's kind of, it's like a chicken or the egg one. So maybe I'll tackle that next time, because it's actually, you kind of want to start back farther than, you want to get it before the nerves hit. So why don't I talk about that next week? We'll finish up the don'ts here. Don't criticize the coach, because then it's back to that confusing thing of, they're like, well, I like the coach, and you're criticizing the coach. And don't say the wrong things. So I've got a little cheat sheet you guys can download if you go to CompletePerformanceCoaching.com/5. The 5 things you should never say to your kid after a meet. So check that out if you're interested. If you have other questions. Oh, you know what? I have one more quick question. Recently saw an article stating that parents shouldn't talk to coaches except to thank them for their hard work. Is that really what coaches want, or the best approach for our kids? I'm going to say that varies. I was a coach and I love talking to parents. Like, if you want to chat, talk to me. If you're upset, talk to me. If you don't like what I'm doing, if you don't understand it, ask me. Like my biggest suggestion earlier was ask the coach what their plan is and then go with that. Bullies. Yeah, I hear a lot about the mean girls behind the scenes. We can talk about that coming up soon too. But yeah, I would talk to the coach and say, hey coach, is it okay if I check in? Like, I love it when parents email me. I mean, I'm not going to tell them what I talked to their kid about, but I'm fine with people saying like, hey, how's it going? What do you do? So I would say as a general rule, I don't think that most coaches are like, don't come talk to me, but they also don't want you to come talk to them like while they're spotting a Yurchenko, like make sure that the timing is right. Maybe shoot them an email. Like if they're hanging out in their office before practice, I don't think there's any problem with talking to them. But it's communication. Everybody's different. So if you don't know, ask. All right, you guys, I'm done for today and I will see you next week.